speak a little bit about the project that we did at the National Museum, Abir and I. I have to say that I have two very luminous memories of my childhood. And one is of my father worked in the computerization of the Indian Railways, and one very luminous memory is of the IBM mainframe, which the Indian Railways used in the 1970s to start computerizing goods movements. And the other luminous memory is being taken to the National Museum by my uncle and being shown how to recognize sculpture from iconography, how to tell Vishnu from Shiva, and so on. And when this chance came to work at the National Museum with their brocades collection, it was like I was very conscious of giving back to audiences in some sense and making the place come alive. But it's easier said than done. The National Museum opened its collection of brocades to us, and we were shown 80 saris, so it mostly came in the form of saris, and Abir and I selected to work on the Banarsi brocade saris for a couple of reasons. The concept, before we even saw the saris, was to show how national cultural resources, and we chose the Banarsi brocade saris in the collection of the National Museum, can have both pedagogic and public value through research and display. And so the approach was, since we both belonged to a university, was to use the materials of a museum, and I thought of ourselves as animators and bridges between the museum and the community. And how could a university and a museum, both of which are public institutions, be made valuable to the public who funds both these institutions? And that was the triangular relationship that we were seeking to build when we accepted or when we applied to the fellowship. And how each of these could become participants in a joint process. We focused on the Banarsi brocade saris in 6 sections, which we looked at Banaras as the center of trade, culture and commerce, as a weaving tradition, technique with a global identity, materials and techniques. So there was the material culture intersecting with the trade and cultural axis, and the saris as an artifact of historic, contemporary and global popular culture. To relate this to, the museum had this collection. The community also has Banarsi saris, and it was striking that the same word is used by all three. The museum refers to its objects as its collection. The people that we interacted with who had collections of saris at home, so it was the same word that my mother has a very big collection, or my aunt has a collection, the museum has a collection. And the third kind of collection that we tried to connect with was the collections of designers and the clothes, apparel that they made every season. They also used the word collection. So what were these collections? Let me show you some of the visuals from the exhibition as it finally turned out. We used not only examples of all the brocading techniques to introduce brocading as a technique, as an embroidery on the loom. We borrowed objects from other collections of the museum, not just the textiles collection. So the garments, the furniture, all which used elements of brocades. So this is the ravishing collection of Banarsi brocades that the National Museum has. But we had, how do we make the connection with the community which was so central to our ideas? We borrowed from designers who gave very generously of their work with Banaras as a textile form. So Ritu Kumar lent to the exhibition, Ashdeen Nilawala lent to the exhibition, and so did Rahul Mishra. So these were fashion designers who worked with brocades. So the idea was to juxtapose the museum's collection, which is at the background. It was foregrounded by very contemporary interpretations by designers. We were also taking care to pick out the motifs which were there in the traditional collection and which were also echoed in the very contemporary forms given to it by designers. On the right, you will also see the ways in which the Banaras brocade finds its way into popular culture, namely cinema. There are posters of films in which the heroine is wearing Banarsi silk sarees, usually as a symbol of the bride or the bride whose hopes have been dashed. Those are the kinds of representation. Pushpamala gave very generously a print of her Mother India series in which the protagonist in the image is wearing a Banarsi sari. What's not visible is in front of this we had a Barbie doll, which in the bridal collection of the Barbie doll, the Indian bride is wearing a Banarsi lehenga. So we were trying to reference the ways in which advertising, popular culture, multinational toy production, all of these were referencing the Banarsi brocade. We wanted to see if the museum could have pedagogic value for our students. So a lot of work happened in our classrooms. We had workshops with students mapping the city and the markets. So what was happening in Lajpat Nagar, in Good Earth, in Banaras's own markets, which were echoed by the museum's collection. So this notion that the museum has authentic Banarsis was juxtaposed with what's happening in Banaras at the moment. So during the project period, we actually did surveys both in Hauskas market, Hauskas village, Lajpat Nagar, as well as Banaras's own markets to see how these motifs and techniques were circulating, the new kinds of materials, lurex, artificial silk, and so on, right down to metal printing and khadi work, which was using the same motifs and actually reproducing the brocade in completely new techniques and fabrics and materials. The image on the far right is Hanuman on the ghats in Banaras, who is wearing actually a metal printed Banarsi brocade look-alike. So even the gods in Banaras were quite open to new materials and new techniques, and they were not thinking in terms of an authentic Banaras brocade the way the museum was thinking about it. And this was a section of loans from people, lay public, and it had a slight autobiographical element also. Abir's mother's sari is here, the pair which is purple and red, and my mother's reception sari is there, the lilac one on the top left. This section showed us that this notion of the classic, authentic Banarsi sari is demolished again and again and again through the decades. So, sorry to make a very quick, so what we think of as the so the image of the image that we used in the invite, this one image on the left, is the classic Banarsi shikarga, which is well known and museumized almost. Rustam, when you were speaking, I was thinking of museum not only as a noun but as a verb. And if you think of museumizing a living kind of craft, what happens, what is the role that the museum plays in freezing ideas has already been spoken of. But in the, sorry, I'm so sorry. The material that we brought into the museum was challenging this idea again and again, the idea of the authentic, the idea of the classic, and the market, home collections, and the narratives given. So not only were there saris donated by people in the public, their own stories of how these saris were bought or acquired in the family was also narrated and put up over here. How they are recycled within the family. So a Banarsi sari might begin as a sari and then end up as the grandson's jacket. These were also some of the things that we tried to bring. So the idea here was that family collections, the market, challenged the museum again and again in ways that we were hoping that the museum would look at its own collections critically and also ask the question, what is worth collecting by a museum? There's plenty to say. I'll leave it now and perhaps come back to it in the questions that might come.